Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down the real world cost of driving an EV versus a petrol car. So recently I took a 235-mile trip down to Silverstone in my electric car, and I want to show you how much I saved compared to if I was using petrol. The numbers might surprise you. What I will do in this video is I will give you a comparison. So first off is what it actually cost me, because I get free EV charging at home. And then I'm going to do the same calculations, but based on, I was on an octopus type tariff for EV charging, which is about 6 pence per kilowatt hour. And I'm going to show you the difference between the two. As I say, I do get free charging at the moment, but that is going to come to an end in about the end of May. So at that point, I will be looking for a tariff. So first up, let's talk about my EV. It's an MG4, and on the trip it averaged about 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. And I started my trip with full charge, which I got for free. Lucky me. My car has a range of about 180 miles at the moment because the weather is still a little bit on the cool side. So meaning a full charge, I had about 50 kilowatts of energy. So down to the sums. So total energy needed for the 235 miles is 235 divided by the average of 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour gives me a consumption of 65.28 kilowatt hours needed for the entire journey there and back. The energy I had from the initial full charge was about 50 kilowatts. So 65.28 kilowatts minus the 50 means I needed to add an additional 15.28 en route somewhere, which I did on my journey back. I put in about an extra 24 kilowatts at a public charger. I put in more than I needed just to make sure that I had enough with a little bit of spare to get me home. So the public charger cost me 79 pence per kilowatt hour. This is at Rugby Services on GridServe. But as I say, I only needed 15.28 kilowatts. So what does this mean? So the total cost was 15.28 extra kilowatt hours times 79 pence. Cost me £12.08. So my total journey cost me just fractionally over £12 to do the full trip to Silverstone and back. But how does that compare to a petrol car? Let's have a look. So now let's take the same trip in a petrol car that does an average of about 35 miles per gallon. Over the 75 miles, that means that my car would use 6.71 gallons of petrol. So 6.71 gallons in real money works out at 30.52 litres. I work in litres. Cost per litre by me is £1.35 for unleaded. So this means that the total cost was £41.20 to do that mileage on a single tank. If the journey had been further than the range of the vehicle, I would obviously have had to fill up as well at services, and that would have really pushed up the price. However, I wouldn't have done in this situation. So that's a cost of £41.20 for the same trip in my petrol car compared to just £12 in my EV. That's a massive saving of £29 on a single journey. Imagine how much you could save over the course of a year. So now let's have a look at what the price difference would be if I had to charge up at home at a cost of 6 pence per kilowatt hour on any special tariff. Okay, so to recap, my car did an average about 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. And as I said, if I used 6 pence per kilowatt hour to charge at home, I would have still used the same amount of energy. However, it's that additional charge that's going to make the difference. And to charge it up with 50 kilowatts of power, well, that would have cost me the whole of £3. So if I add that to the public charger that I used in the last scenario, which gave me a price of about £12, the entire journey is just over £15, which, as you can see, is still a huge saving over the same journey in a petrol car. So there you have it. In this type of scenario, EVs are significantly cheaper to run, especially if you charge at home, and I totally accept that that's not for everybody. But so if you are considering changing to an EV car, it's really worth considering what type of journeys you do over the course of a year, because trips like this can make significant savings. If you do them on a regular basis, you can offset that to the initial cost of an EV, which, let's be honest, is more expensive than a petrol car. But if you are doing these trips on a regular basis, you deduct that from what you would normally spend in petrol because you are still doing the same journeys no matter which car you're going to use. So doing some serious consideration like this can really bring that cost of ownership down for an EV. And unfortunately, this is something that a lot of people don't consider. If you're going to be driving your car, you're going to be doing the miles no matter what, you need to work out what's the cost for those miles over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long you want to do it for. Bear in mind that the cost of electricity could go up, but on the flip side, the cost of petrol could go up as well. We don't know. We can only base it on today's prices. What I'd also like to add into this is the fact that I drive quite often petrol cars through work, and I've got an EV myself, and I find the EV car much more enjoyable to drive. Far more relaxing, nice and quiet. I can hear the radio. It is a more enjoyable journey. And I know that I'm doing better for the environment, especially in those towns and cities where congestion causes a lot of pollutants in the air, which is basically poisoning people and giving them things like COPD and asthma. And no matter where you sit on the EVs versus petrol cars, we know this is a fact. So was I concerned about running out of charge on the way back? No, I wasn't. And basically because I used my CarPlay in the car with my phone, planned my route home, and it gave me a list of EV stops en route that I could choose. And I chose one that was halfway through the range that I had left in the vehicle. I did this because if the chargers, for whatever reason, even though there were multiple, if for whatever reason they weren't working or there was a big queue, I still had enough energy to get to the next service station. So there was no anxiety on my part. Having said that, the Rugby services were brilliant. There was plenty of EV chargers. There were Tesla chargers as well. However, they're not unlocked for just general use. They are only for Tesla there, unlike the ones at the Trafford Centre that I use sometimes where any car can go and use them. So there were plenty to choose from. And as you can see from the video, it's fairly easy to park up, plug in, go and grab a drink, grab something to eat, have a comfort break, get back to the car, and your car has got enough energy to get you home. So the whole park up and charge and get on my way took me 20 minutes. And from when I left the car to when I got back with my food, it was pretty much 18, 19 minutes. So I wasn't waiting around for more than a couple of minutes longer than I needed to, which makes the journey even more enjoyable. So what do you think? Are EVs worth it? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more EV content, and I'll see you in the next video.